All right, so the early returns on Roquan Smith should obviously be pretty encouraging and exciting for us as Ravens fans. We are blessed to have two athletes of this caliber play an inside linebacker for us in 2022. Really shocking the way that he just kind of fits into the system and just plays. I don't think the Ravens need to really do a whole lot for this guy in terms of preparing him for our way of playing defense. Like for real, to me, he's got things covered. I think he does incredible film study. I think he's got a great awareness of tendencies, whether it's personnel tendencies, whether it's down and distance. I'm not sure. This is only going to be 8 plays in this film study. I just love how he tracks the running back. He understands his leverage side. I have continued to talk about that, be it pass or run plays. So initially here, let's call him, the flow is to his side. All right. Let's just stop the arrow right there. As I'm teaching linebackers, I'm teaching them, all right, right now you're the front side guy. You're the FC, front side guy. Right now you're the backside guy. But the amazing thing about the NFL is how high a level the game is played at, right? Obviously way higher than I've ever coached at. In an instant, he goes from being the front side guy to being the backside guy. Well, how does the leverage relate? If you're on the front side, generally, let's say that Kamara just runs right on this track with no awareness of where he's going to go. If you're talking about two inside linebackers fitting, you generally want the front side guy to fit on the play side shoulder of the tailback. That's not the aiming point, but I'm speaking very generally right now. And then if on the backside guy, you generally want him to fit on the backside hip or the backside shoulder. I'm only using those parts of the body to talk about where you fit. I'm not calling them aiming points or where you try to tackle. So don't try to turn that into something more simplistic than it is. I'm attempting to be simple to get this done quick. Now, in an instant, though, Kamara cuts back and he now becomes the backside guy. Queen is coming downhill fast. He's fast flowing. Check out his alignment, though. Queen's moving with the motion. So his alignment's kind of outside the scheme for a zone play in this direction. He ends up getting taken by the tackle. Great job by Hurst. And then Roquan Smith fits it. Roquan Smith, to me, is very intuitive. Don't get me wrong. You may use the word instinctual. Broderick Washington also played it well there. That was a 2nd and 3. This is the very next play, 3rd and 1. I cannot just abide by calling Roquan Smith instinctual, though. These things are trained, learned, and then it's a person, Roquan Smith, making a conscious decision to train himself in a certain way and apply it in that same manner in the game. This is a unique run fit, if you ask me, because it clearly looks like to me, you've got a down block here by the tight end, and he could, fit this off tackle. He could bounce it outside, he being Kamara. The trust that Roquan Smith has, what a lot of linebackers would do in this situation. Let me pause it. What a lot of linebackers do somewhere about right here is they would be running to the outside. I'm talking about young linebackers. I'm not talking about NFL linebackers. It takes years to train certain people to trust their teammates, meaning it's a whole lot of field. It's a whole lot of field out here. Me as a linebacker, whatever age a person is when things start to click for them. It looks like to me, Roquan Smith, they started to click probably around age 13, maybe 12. It takes a long time for certain people to understand I need to be on my fit. Somebody else has got to handle all this. It speaks a lot, if you ask me, to what he actually is at his core as a football player. He's willing to fight in here and on the inside and get involved in the play with some thump at the end of it, okay? Kamara was not getting any vertical movement. Humphrey was there as well. Equally impressive play by Humphrey, if you ask me. I was blown away by those two run fits. Not that it's not other guys in the league who do it, but for him to do that so early in his time with the Ravens, I thought was pretty amazing. All right, this is the one where, Taysom Hill kind of runs over Marlon Humphrey. And what the amazing thing about Humphrey is that Humphrey, if he was faced with this same situation like today, if he was faced with that same scenario, he would do the same thing, except, maybe he would go a little lower. Maybe he would go a little lower on his tackling angle. What I am focusing on here is, though, the pursuit. That right there, that's what great defenses do. That's 3 Ravens players. It requires speed, don't get me wrong. It does require speed in order to be able to do that. Have 3 guys tackle the ball carrier over near the sideline. It requires agility, reads, don't all of those things. It requires commitment, being committed to that type of pursuit on every play. He's already pointing, man. Like, the guy, I don't know how much film he watched of the Saints, but it looks like a lot. He's already pointing. The guard pulls. He's triggered, gone. He's dealing with, I think, the guard. He's dealing with the left guard yet. Scrapes over the top of him. Hill breaks the tackle. I just think it's an exquisite play. Don't get me wrong, it's a 7-yard gain. I just think that it shows what he is committed to doing. This is the all-22 of the same play. It's no nickel defender down here. The nickel defender is Kyle Hamilton. That's the nickel defender. We don't have a nickel down here because it's to the boundary. We've got an inside linebacker, so that causes some problems that we've got to mitigate. Right now, our edge player, it looks like he's spilling this. There's no one to spill this to. We don't have a nickel defender out here to spill this to, unless we, by design, are going to scrape the inside linebacker over the top, which Queen kind of does. I just think it's a great play. Looks like the play came back. I think it was a hold. I'm not here to talk about the hold. Just impressed, man. Just impressed. In here, inside linebacker. Later on in the game, Blitzing, unselfish. Now, the only thing I will say about this, he's supposed to pick so that Calais Campbell can zoom around. This is the same thing that Queen did earlier in the game. The only thing I think, though, is he seems to be focused on trying to get out of the pick, he being Roquan Smith. I don't think I give you the end zone angle of this one. Let me check. No, I don't. Let me go back. He's not finishing this pick. If I'm being picky about this, I would say, like, hey, you've got to finish this off. He seems really focused on getting off of this guard and then getting to the quarterback. So basically, putting himself in a position to go get the sack while still doing his job to let Campbell go get the sack. If you're a baseball person, here's the analogy that I'll make. It's 1st and 2nd, nobody out, and your coach tells you to bunt, right, which teams should do more of. If you disagree with that, that's okay. Teams should do more of that. And you, as the player, instead of sacrifice bunting, you bunt for a hit. You happen to be very good at bunting for a hit. Is that selfish? I don't know if it's selfish or not. It's just not exactly what you're asked to do. I think he is a supreme athlete who can pull this off, though. And there's some guys who can do what I just described, and they can pull it off, meaning bunt for a hit when they've been told to sacrifice bunt to get the runners over to 2nd and 3rd. It's some guys who are athletic enough and they execute things at a high enough level to be able to do that. And to me, it looks like Roquan Smith is one of those guys. That's why I showed you that play. He's lined up like he's going to blitz, and then he's got Alvin Kamara man. The best 2 run fits by any inside linebacker in this game was those 2 that I showed you by Roquan Smith. The best example of pass coverage by an inside linebacker in this game, either team, was this one of him covering Alvin Kamara. I think they end up converting the first down a play later, but I could be wrong. I just feel like Alvin Kamara, with his athletic ability, is just so smooth in everything he does. It seems to me that oftentimes he would catch this ball and he would skirt around here around the edge. The athlete that we have, though, in Roquan Smith, he matches Kamara's athleticism. Maybe not with the ball in his hand. Maybe if you let Roquan Smith play some tailback in a game, he's not going to break tackles like Alvin Kamara. But covering each other, I think Roquan Smith wins this battle often. To be honest with you, at least from the limited amount of film that I have seen, which was only me showing you film when we first acquired him, and then me now watching him play 75% of the snaps in our game against the Saints. He's not on the field on this one. I'm not sure why I included that play, but he's on the field here. Some pre-snap communication is happening. with our safeties. They're indicating mesh. This is a sick run fit. A 235-pound guy dealing with an offensive tackle who's running his tracks, meaning the left tackle is running his tracks this way, zone tracks. Ball is given to the running back. Got a serious threat in Taysom Hill in keeping this thing. That's not Roquan Smith's job, though. He fills the inside gap. If he doesn't fill this gap, there's the possibility for a big play here, guys. I don't think I give you the end zone angle on this one either. I was trying to get this out as quick as possible, so I probably should have got the end zone angle from this one to give you a better illustration of how impressive this one is. He's dealing with a 325-pound tackle working on his track, meaning that's the track that left tackle practices every day. When I refer to track, running back track, offensive lineman track, that is the track that he works on, the angle, the path he works on every day in, 6 or 8 different drills that address skills needed with the zone scheme. And Roquan Smith, with one arm, just was able to get through that gap that shouldn't be there, a seal that shouldn't be there. You can see he just extracted his right arm from the hook, but his right arm wasn't used in this tackle at all. All left arm, all effort, all heart, and commitment to being where he's needed on a particular play. It's gaps that are assigned to you as a linebacker, as a DN, D tackle, whatever. You have assigned gaps. You have reads and techniques to get you into those gaps to make sure that no run play goes through them. Roquan Smith, it looks like to me, is able to play his gap, and then he has the, I guess you can call it natural ability, innate ability. I would add in awareness, intelligence, film study. All of those things, to me, are all inclusive. They're not separate things. When you throw them in a jambalaya and mix them all up, at the end you get something like Roquan Smith. You get a guy who can be responsible for B gap on a run play, and then Alvin Kamara cuts it back to the other side because he's been taught to do that on a particular read, and Roquan Smith is able to play the B gap on the other side. I don't know that we've had an inside linebacker like this for a long time. We've had some really, really good ones, clearly. And I was not old enough, and I didn't know a damn thing about football when most of those guys played. Well, when some of those guys, played, pre-2003 or something like that for me in terms of understanding what happens in there. And it's taken me, years to develop even more understanding because that's the way life is with any skill. And to me, man, Roquan Smith, for his age and where he is, he has an incredible understanding of where he needs to be. And then he has mid-play the ability to adjust. And that was one thing that I identified in the film study I did when we acquired him from the Bears. Looking back, that's a great trade. Like, that's an unbelievable trade for us to be able to get a talent like this for a second-round draft pick. This should have cost us a first-round pick, even though it could be a rental, whatever. It puts this team in position to contend for everything. If you could have gotten equivalent wide receiver talent for Roquan Smith, it would have been a first-round pick. And I feel like Roquan Smith should have required a first-round pick to get someone this talented. Superb player. Hopefully I've been able to do him justice with some of the things I brought up to you. I am a huge fan already, just based on the limited film that we have. His commitment to doing what is needed. The only slight complaint I would have is that pick play. But again, to me, there are certain guys who are able to do those things. As long as he can execute his task, is what's required of him on that pick, and pick that guard in a way that allows Calais Campbell or any D tackle to loop underneath. It's the same thing Queen did to help Justin Houston get free on his first sack. Exact same thing. As long as he can do that and execute it, that's fine. The problem is, and some of you aren't going to like this, when you have that situation, whether you're talking about 25-year-old people, whether you're talking about 18-year-old kids, which is most of my experience, or whether you're talking about 14 or 12 or 10-year-old kids, which I have experience coaching them as well. If you allow one person to do that, then how do you stop that train and say to these other people, you can't do it? It depends on the relationship you have with those people. Certain people, you say, you're not as talented as him. You're not allowed to do it that way. Sorry. God didn't give you the same ability. Yeah, that's what you say. Sometimes what you do is you go to a guy like Roquan Smith and you say, hey, man, every time you do that, I'm going to holler at you vociferously and very loud and make a scene so everybody hears me hollering at you. I don't mean it. Ignore me. It's a game. I'm putting on a show for everybody else to hear it because I don't want them to do the same thing. You are capable of doing it. So just play the game with me. Say, yes, sir, I won't do it again. And then wait 3 weeks before you do it again. So hopefully that makes sense. I have a little bit of personal experience with no athlete like Roquan Smith, but with those situations where you kind of have to bend the rules a little bit because you have a special talent who can do things in a little bit different way. And I think that's what we got with Roquan Smith. Let me know what you guys think of my thoughts in the comment section and what you thought of Roquan Smith's first game playing defense for the Baltimore Ravens.